Hi everyone, Stacy Whiter here on behalf of Campus Mortgage with part 2 of a 3-part video series on how to determine income for self-employed borrowers on Fannie Mae loans. Now just a quick reminder before we get started, this video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice or used in place of Fannie Mae guidelines. Also, this video was issued on April 24th, 2018, and the information contained in this video is subject to change without notice. We know that Fannie Mae considers the self-employed borrower as someone who has 25% or more ownership interest in a business. Let's take a look at the requirements for the length of self-employment. Generally, Fannie Mae is going to require a 2-year history. 12 to 24 months may be considered in certain situations. So this would be where recent returns would reflect income at the same or greater level in a field that provides the same product or service as current business or a previous occupation. So an example might be is someone who worked for a company that sold medical sales equipment. And they worked there for several years, did very well, and then decided to go out and formulate their own business or their own company where they're still going to be selling medical equipment or something very similar. So those are the kind of things that you're looking for. If you have a situation where maybe someone was working at Home Depot, as a cashier or a service person, and then they go into a totally unrelated field, like maybe they become a mortgage broker. Those are kind of situations where you have to be careful because it's a completely different business and completely different industry. And more than likely, Fannie Mae would want them to wait the 2 years for that. Also, consider the level of experience and any business debt that they have incurred to start their business. When it comes to income verification, again, Fannie Mae is most likely going to require the last 2 years of signed returns. And in some cases, they're going to want business and personal returns. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. So in lieu of getting the 2-year signed tax returns, the complete and legible IRS issued tax transcripts could also be acceptable for personal and for business returns. Now, in some DU case files, you may get a feedback certificate that only requires 1 year of personal and business returns. So certainly go by whatever the DU feedback is. Business returns may be waived in certain situations. So if you have 2 years of the signed individual returns, if those were both provided, and the borrower is using their own personal funds to pay the down payment, the closing costs, or meet any reserve requirements, and if the borrower has been self-employed in the same business for 5 years, and their tax returns, their individual tax returns show an increase over the last 2 years. So in this situation, you may be able to waive getting the business returns. Now, when there is a self-employed co-borrower on the loan, the returns for that self-employed co-borrower are not going to be required if you're not using that income. And a lender would not need to evaluate any income or loss. So if you have a self-employed borrower, co-borrower, and you're not using that income and maybe they show a loss on their transcripts, the lender would not have to consider that loss. However, any business debt that is tied individually to the borrower personally must still be considered in the debt-to-income ratios. All right, that concludes part 2 of this 3-part video series. Thanks so much for watching. For more tips and videos, please visit campusmortgage.org to look for their weekly mortgage video tips designed for all mortgage professionals, including underwriters, loan officers, processors, closers, and post-closers. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.